Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm going to have today an interview with probably one of the most known underground directors in the world, especially when it comes to kind of hard edge movies, dark, gritty, gruesome, brutal, yeah, horror films. And this is the first conversation I have on my channel with another person in the industry. I will probably make many of these videos in the future, and I hope I see you here again also. So please, after you watch this video, give it a thumb up if you like it. If you don't like it, please give it a thumb down so I know it. But subscribe to the channel, and yeah, so you know when new stuff coming out in the future. See you around. Hello everyone, welcome to Videoman and Gizmo's channel. Today I will have with me Fred Vogel. I had the pleasure of meeting Fred and his wife Shelby and some of the TOETAG crew at But Film Festival in the Netherlands in 2009. We lived in a house there together for 4 or 5 days, and I had with me my actress Isabelle back then, and I remember well that she always called that house the mansion. We were so surprised that the But Film Festival were so generous to us.
Yes, they were.
I will just tell quickly my history with TOETAG Pictures. When I met Fred, I had only seen one of the films from TOETAG, and that was August Underground. But I don't know which of the August Underground films I've seen, because this is a little bit dark history, if that makes sense, because I'm totally against downloading stuff. But when I moved to Alta in around 2003-04, so I believe it's the first one, because I think, you can correct me on this, Fred, but I believe the first one was made in 2002, 2003.
The first one was 2001.
Yeah, right.
August Underground's Mortem was 2003. And August Underground's Penance was 2007.
So it could be the first or the second.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I still haven't seen those because they have been impossible for me to get over the years. I even asked you, Fred, before, but you didn't have any more left in the storage back then. But they have become like this cult films all over the world, I would say. And yeah, but anyway, I met Fred, and then I had the pleasure of seeing Maskhead at the festival. I think you gave me a copy of Murder Collection Volume 1, this one.
Yes.
I didn't see it at the festival, but I saw it when I got home. Mm-hmm. And later on, I got, is it Cella Tercia?
Cella Turcica.
Turcica. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this was a really pleasure to watch, Fred. I was really happy when I got that. I think it was in 2019. Could that be correct, that I got to see the final interview?
Yes.
So that's my history with your films. And also I got the pleasure of meeting you and Shelby, as I told them, and some of your crew.
Yes.
But my first question for you, Fred, is when you picked out the first kind of genre you were going to do. I call it Mondo films, but I don't know if August Underground will go under that subgenre. But did you plan it, or was it something that just happened?
It was definitely something that kind of just happened. There was certainly underground movies at the time, films. The underground film scene is so broad, you can look at like early John Waters films as underground films. You can look at Kenneth Anger, Nick Zedd. A lot of those films are considered underground films. I think when I made August Underground, I didn't realize that it was going to kind of be the movie that started the extreme underground horror.
Now, Laura, she's been a good friend of ours for a long time, and I love her so much.
There was definitely some extreme horror movies, but August Underground kind of made a big dent. And I wasn't trying. I was just trying to make a movie. I didn't know where it was going to go, and it kind of just it found its way through the cosmoses into the genre that it's in. At the time, the Blair Witch Project was probably one of the only real films that had like that cinema verite, shot on video, found footage look to it. August Underground came out a year later, but was just a little bit more on the extreme side. So it didn't get the mainstream love that Blair Witch got. And I think because it didn't get the mainstream love, it said like, I'm just going to go where I need to go, and it went straight to the underground.
I was familiar, of course, with the Blair Witch Project, but a similar, maybe not a similar film, but what I remember for what I saw from the August Underground back in the days was have you seen Man Bite Dogs?
Oh yeah. Man Bite Dog was definitely an inspiration for sure.
Yeah, nice. I was a big fan of that when I was younger. It was I remember the first time I saw that one was like it felt real in many ways, and that scared me.
Yeah, same for me. I think any movie that kind of like makes you, when you're watching it and you kind of feel like you're not watching a traditional cinematic film, it can be scary. That's why the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is such a scary movie, is because it kind of felt like a documentary at that time. And
yeah, I think still,
and people thought it was real. And I think movies like Cannibal Holocaust and Man Bites Dog and August Underground, they fill that void of like, is it real or is it a movie?
Shit, I got shit on my fucking shit. This is better than the last one, man. She is my fucking prize, man. I'm so fucking excited for her.
Another thing I just got into, Fred, is that I started watching a lot of shot-on-video films from America from the time period between end of 80s till during the 90s, because a lot of those boutique companies nowadays have starting releasing a lot of those hidden gems that has been lost for ages. And America is probably most famous of doing a lot of those films, but they are not, I haven't found any films yet that are going straight into what you are talking about, making it look real, like feeling it's real. And your film now, or not your only one film, is 3 films that are coming out through Unearthed Films, and it's the trilogy of August Underground. I will just ask a quick question about the physical release of that. I don't know if you are allowed to say this, but because I read that August Underground getting released the 15th of August, and August Underground Mortem comes out the 10th of October. But Penance hasn't gotten a release date yet, as far as I know.
It will be coming. Penance will be coming in December.
Okay.
Cool. So that was one of the things like that. I talked with Stephen Byro, who runs Unearthed Films. We wanted to make the dates special. So obviously the first one is coming out in August. August Underground's Mortem will come out during Halloween, and then August Underground's Penance will be around Christmas, which, August Underground's Penance has that Christmas scene that's pretty infamous in it.
It feels so sad that I haven't seen them. That's the thing I really wanted to have seen. I've seen, as I said, all of your other films, but those films I haven't gotten around to yet. But now I get to. Yeah. And everybody else.
I wouldn't have been mad if you downloaded them like the rest of the world,
I think you know why I don't do it. It's just in my heart.
I know exactly why, and I totally respect it, and I thank you for it. But sometimes when you want to watch something, you want to watch something.
Yeah, I get triggered about doing stuff like that, but I understand people who does. That's the thing also. So.
Oh, aren't you the sweetest?
I will go over to the practical effects in your film, and that's probably something you always get asked. Oh, but yeah. I remember we talked a lot about it when we lived together, and because you showed me this book you had with you with a lot of showing of stuff you had done.
Yes, it was a portfolio.
Portfolio, yeah.
No, Jeremy Cruz. He's behind TOETAG. He is the main guy.
Yeah.
We both went to school together, studying special effects. I went off to teach at Tom Savini's makeup school. Tom Savini is one of the greatest special effects artists of the modern generation. And,
yeah, I love it.
Doing effects from like George Romero's movies, Dawn of the Dead, to Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. I can go on and on. But I taught there for a little while, and then I decided to make August Underground, and I did the effects for August Underground with myself and a few other people. Some students, helped me out, and one of the instructors as well helped me out, Greg. But when it came time for TOETAG, that was where Jeremy stepped in, and we decided to be partners. And I was going to focus on the directing, and he was going to focus on the special effects. So it was really just a perfect marriage for us.
And how many will you say you have in the first 3 films you made? Because it was August Underground 1 and 2, and then you made Resident Tower.
Yes.
Would you say that you expand over the time period from each film to more and more crew, or was it the same in the beginning, like the first 4 or 5 films?
It's mostly been Jeremy. Jeremy did a lot of the effects himself. He might have a few people helping him, build some of the stuff. I know Christy helped him build some of the stuff back in the day. We had a guy named Ricky Lee who built some stuff back in the day. But Jeremy was the mastermind behind that. I mean, I would help him out if he needed it. I got to the point to where I didn't want to get my hands dirty. I wanted to focus more on producing and directing the movie. And that was hard enough. And having to jump into the effects. I knew with Jeremy that we were on the same page because we both knew how effects work. And I think that was, that's the real gift behind TOETAG and behind our partnership, is that we both are special effects artists. We respect the craft, and we know how things work. We know how much blood, we know how blood pumps out. We know how the appliance looks if it's starting to come off. There's none of that like, oh, I've never seen this before. We study this, so we know exactly what to look for if, the makeup is starting to, run, or the blood's not looking right, or the effect isn't coming off properly. That was a really great thing, having Jeremy and I working together, but he was the mastermind behind all that.
Yeah, that's interesting. But you worked in a team, all of you, and you probably all of you that was part of the first films at least. Sorry,
of course, yeah. Shelby and Christy and Michael Schneider for August Underground's Mortem. I mean, we were a family.
Yeah.
And you got a chance to see that, like when we came over to Europe, like we weren't just, even though they were showing my movies, we were there as a group.
Yeah.
And that's the way that we always saw TOETAG, was like, we're like KISS, there's different members. Everybody had their members, their favorites. All the people who really love the effects, love Jeremy. All the people who love the artistry of the movies, they love me. The girls, Shelby, the creativeness of the art, team with Shelby and Christy. So we were just really happy to be this team.
And you have fans in Norway as well. I met many of those. So during my trips to festivals and stuff. So
yeah.
And some of them get shocked when I say I met you. So it's cool.
Yeah.
You're like, you have on your, I have that cap still, not cap, but hat, I think it's called in English, with the sick fuck. people. But is that also something, that's something I wanted to ask you about, because spreading the sickness is something I read. What was that from early on that you started with that slogan, or is that later?
No. Early on, once we really decided like what TOETAG was going to be, and the movies that we had in our, in our arsenal, we knew that we were more intense than the regular kind of companies. So we had things like the future of horror is bright fucking red. That was one of our main slogans. Our business cards were TOETAGs. Spreading the sickness was something that, just really worked for what we were doing, because we were making these films that kind of never really been, done before.
I'm gonna cut this motherfucker here. This motherfucker's never gonna forget.
Man, I get fucking AIDS from this shit.
Don't fucking touch that shit.
Holy shit.
And they were just so sick and depraved that, we just decided that, spreading the sickness was really, the best slogan for what TOETAG movies are and our art that we were creating.
Yeah. We have like this stream we do. So I'm part of it some Saturday on on a friend's channel, and we do like we watch a lot of Italian giallos and stuff. I was thinking we went through all the Winger Syndrome Forgotten Giallos box sets. I think it's 3 weeks ago we finished them.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about which movies they should release out, and suddenly it just popped up in my head. I know it's not a Gialli, and I know it's not Italian. It's your films, and it's Redson Tower. But I remember when I saw that film, because I have always been into Italian Gialli, there was I felt it was some kind of stylish tone to it that kind of reminded me of the Italian glory days, if you understand.
Of course.
Yeah. So I was telling the other guys that they should watch it, of course, and that's something that Winger Syndrome or Severin or Unearthed Films, of course, should think about releasing, because I don't think that movie either has like a physical release through another company.
No, so how it worked was TOETAG did our own releasing. We were our own distribution company. The only way to get TOETAG movies was from us, or unless we sold it to other people. But it all came back to us, and that put a roof over our head for a long time. And once TOETAG kind of like, once we hit our like late 30s, and we were kind of like, this is really tough being this art, trying to be an artist and trying to make these movies and putting everything into it. It was getting really hard. And I know that, we were just growing up. Jeremy decided to move out to Los Angeles, where he has a very successful career working on mainstream movies, building costumes for a lot of the big Marvel films out there right now. Shelby and I opened up a physical store here in Pittsburgh at first. And, Shelby went on to, she manages restaurants now. And I work for the motion picture department here in Pittsburgh in the Union, working on a lot of the big studio films. So I think we just kind of got to a point where, like, we were kind of tired of eating peanut butter and jellies and like living on, sharing a house together. It just got harder as we got older. Shelby and I got married, and it's, as much as I love my friends, it's time for us to kind of have our own house, and kind of, start doing our own things. We spent pretty much, from 2002 to, 2010 together, 8 years.
Yeah.
And that's a long time. I mean, bands, have this problem. When you're family and you're living together and you're touring together and you're doing all this stuff together, sometimes you just need that break. You need that separation, and that's what we decided to do. And because of that, the movies kind of just went out of print, and we were just focused on so many other things. I wasn't really worried about the movies. I just got done making my brand new one, The Final Interview, and I was more focused on pushing that than I was on pushing TOETAG. And it wasn't until Jeremy reached out and was just like, hey, Unearthed is really interested in releasing the August Underground films. And I was like, oh man, I don't want to give anybody these movies. These movies are our movies. Once I talked to Steve and Jeremy and Shelby and I kind of talked about it, we really realized that Unearthed was the perfect home for these films. And who knows what's going to happen? Right now I'm taking baby steps. Again, I'm giving away my children here to another company. But if everything keeps going as good as it's going right now, like, I hope Redson Tower comes out through Unearthed, and Maskhead and Celatersica and Murder Collection and the whole TOETAG catalog, because I know people want to see it. They're just out of print, and now there's so much money trying to find the real copies of it. Yeah. It's it's time for people to be able to get it at a regular price.
You can find them on eBay sometimes, but they are really pricey. I can tell you that.
Yeah, they are.
When you start with or I don't know where you start, but people start different places. But if you start with a script, storyboard, ID, treatment, whatever you start with, how does it, or it's probably different also from project to project, because you made so many different movies in the horror genre.
Yeah.
But let's take a movie like Celatersica. Tersica. It's hard to say.
Yeah. Man, they butcher. I've heard that movie called, Spicy Tortilla. What I mean? Like,
I'm trying my best.
It's okay. You're doing great.
Yeah. But when you came up with that idea?
We just got done making 2 movies back to back, which was Murder Collection and Maskhead. And that was our up. Murder Collection is kind of like our Faces of Death, where we do these, we recreate these like murder scenes, and it's very stylized. So everything from like an ATM camera to um, videotape. It's got all. It's very artistic. When we did Maskhead, we brought in Scott Swan, who is a writer who wrote John Carpenter's Cigarette Burns for the Masters of Horror. And he wanted to make a movie with TOETAG. So Maskhead was born out of that. As we got done with Maskhead, I was ready to try something different and grow. Every time I make a movie, I want to grow. I want to try different things. I want to push myself. And I really wanted to try to do something dramatic because I love the way horror sticks to drama. And if you have a really great drama and you throw some awesome kills and, horrific situations, that it's everlasting. You'll think about those scenes all the time. It's like watching David Lynch's Blue Velvet, and there's that scene at the end of the movie with the cop that's shot and his microphone, his hand hits the lamp and it knocks it over. Like that shit still haunts me. And it's not, and there's nothing really super, scary about it. It's just a situation, because you're so invested in the film that when these horrific moments happen, it just hits you better. So Cinematography was kind of that project. It was like, all right, let's try to make a drama and have like these really violent situations happen.
What's wrong with Brad? Feeling a little bit better?
No.
I remember coming up with we came up with the idea and we started the writing process. And at the time, our friend Don Moore was living with us and he was, wanting to become a writer. And Cinematography was kind of like his first vehicle. Him and I at the time were working on a Frankenstein script together. And I think, from going from that to Cinematography, really gave him some momentum and he was feeling really good about, screenwriting. So we all sat down there and kind of worked out the ideas and developed the script. And we knew that we had, somebody who was in the, who was home from the war to kind of help us. So when we did all the dialogue about, what was going on overseas fighting, we actually had somebody that knew exactly what was going on there to make everything seem more legit. Realism is an important piece to all my movies. I always try to, even though there might be some crazy shit going on, I always try to keep that realism, up front.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much how it got started, and it was crazy because at the time we were getting everything going personally, all kinds of shit was going down. Like we started losing our studio that we were in. We were shooting at, we took over my buddy's house out in Ohio to shoot the film and literally took his whole house over and, set dressed it and made it look like how it looks in the movie. It was the first time having a movie star. We had Camille Keaton in the film. So I was really nervous about, oh my God, I got this woman coming here and she's going to be making a movie with, we're doing this out of a house in a garage, like,
yeah,
she might think this is amateur hour.
Mm.
But one thing that always stands true is TOETAG and us as people. And I think, when she came in and she met everybody and fell in love with everybody and saw the way that I run the set and saw how passionate we were, she was super excited to be there. And, Cinematography it's a really good movie for what it is. It's different.
It is, absolutely. What I think, I can just jump in quick here, is that what I hoping in the future, this is just a hope I have, if you make a movie in the future, because what I think, of course, the special effects is magnificent in your films. But what I think you really do well, and I think I told you this already back in 2009, but you really shine in this film, I think, is creating the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
Because the atmosphere is the most important thing for me seeing a film.
Yeah.
Even if it's should feel real or like a fantasy or whatever, the atmosphere is the most important for me. And I do think this is my favorite film from you when it comes to that. It's on a good craftsmanship. Is that how you say it? So really, really well.
No, I appreciate that. And in my day job working on movies, I work in the art department as a set dresser. So, production design and set dressing is something that I've always been a fan of. And it's an art form all in itself, because like if you can give the actor the best looking set, it'll make that actor feel like they're really there. And the acting can just come naturally because they know they have all the pieces, the bits and pieces of that atmosphere to shine.
Yeah.
And creating a look and creating a style is also something that I'm really passionate about. Is like, okay, well, I don't want all my movies to look the same. Like when you watch a lot of filmmakers, all their movies look the same.
Yeah.
And I try really hard not to do that.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can take, my films. I mean, like, look at, The Final Interview. It looks like a movie from like the early 80s, and that's how it's supposed to look.
You ready to face off with the devil tonight?
The devil?
So how's Tidman? Is he ready?
Ready to die, if that's what you mean.
He's a run-of-the-mill loony.
He painted a room with his father's blood.
This room gives me a bad vibe.
Open 4.
Same thing, with Cinematography having like that, war postcard look to it. It's the way the family dynamic is in the house, and
also the
head.
grade
Yeah.
you have used that made the yellow kind of
It's almost like being out in like magic hour.
Just the equipment and the guns untouched.
And I would actually put in there when you first talk about that Red Sin Tower as well, because that was a surprise for me. I didn't see it for 1 year after you gave it to me, but when I saw it, I was like, "Whoa, this is cool."
Yeah, no, and we built all that in our studio. That was all built in like 3 rooms.
The best way to end a crazy day is to have a crazier night with me. What about going up to the Red Sin Tower?
We're not going anywhere. You love me and you cannot deny that.
When you find out that we are going to film, is it the producer in you that says that, or is it the director in you that says that, or both?
About the budget?
No, because you probably have some sort of plan on when you will start filming, but many times you need to push it further.
Yes. Yeah. So that's the scariest. That's where you like look over the cliff and say, okay, I'm going to jump.
Yeah.
And it's the scariest feeling in the world, because that's when you literally jump, and that's when you get things moving, and you start contacting people, and you start putting together the team, and you start sending the script out, and you start, all this communication with all your department heads. And it might just be 3 people, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's not, I don't use, my crew's usually, 12 to 15 people, very small. It's a very family, situation and surrounding. I hire the best people to do the best jobs that they can with what we have. But like once you start dealing with, paying people and money, you got to make sure you have that money. The last thing you want to do is be like, oh, well, now we don't have the money. And then, then you're more stressed, and you're pulling your hair out of your head, and you're not sleeping, and you're not focusing right. Like it's the scariest thing. And that's why only a certain few of us filmmakers make movies, like really make movies. Because it's certainly not easy, and to me it's the scariest part of making the movie, is taking that first initial jump and saying, okay, we are filming August 5th through September 1st, like we're going. That's what's happening. book the hotels, you know.
There's no way back when you first have
No,
when
and
you
that's
first have jumped.
yeah. And you know, when I first started making, you know, when I made August Underground, I was shooting on the weekends.
Yeah.
And I remember once I finished August Underground, I was like, I never want to make a movie like this ever again. Because then you can't rely on people, especially if you're not paying them or you're paying them very little. Like everybody has more excuses. You know, one of the things that I do, especially I did with Cella Turcica, was it was like camp. And all the actors lived in that house up in the attic, and they had all their sleeping bags. And the, you know, the air conditioner was up there because it was the middle of summer. We were shooting it. It was in August, and we all had dinner together. We all woke up and had breakfast together, and we all went to work on a movie together. And I kept everybody there. Same thing with the Redson Tower. I kept all the kids in my office, and they pretty much just lived in there until I need you, PJ, I need you to come in here. Bethany, I need you to come in here and shoot a scene. And I just kind of wrangled them all. And like that was the only way I knew how to do it with the budget that I had, which was very little. It wasn't until the final interview to where I was more comfortable with like keeping actors at a hotel and then bringing them to set, and you know, just giving them a little bit of room, because I knew that there was more money being put towards them for them to come back.
Yeah,
you know, I didn't want them to run away.
Yeah, I can see that.
You know.
Yeah, I experienced the same. So that's I know what you're talking about with that. This is a question I believe you have gotten a lot of times because of your films, but about casting your films, especially your first films, but overall, because you have Camille Keaton in one of your films. You have had like at least 3 films that I just seen a lot of picture films, and one of them I've seen, but I just remember scenes from it. But there's a lot of nudity in it, and there is, well, not a lot, but I remember there is nudity in it. And how have you done it with casting over the years, if you want to talk about it?
So casting is very important to me, and it's always been. TOETAG has always done, and even like when I did the final interview, which isn't a TOETAG movie, you know, casting is a big deal. I never just put people just to put people in a movie. When it came to the earlier films, and you know, like the Redson Tower as well, we did a big casting. We had to make sure, you know, the lead actress was willing to be pretty much half naked through the third act of the film. And you know, that was like one thing we had to go through, and you know, be up front and honest, and say like, you know, you're gonna be naked. Like, are you comfortable with this? And you know, thank God they were. But I love the casting. I love the casting process because I love like seeing my words come to life, and I love, you know, when I visually see somebody acting, it you know, it helps my thought process on like what I need to do, and it helps me like plan better for before we come time to film, because then now I have a face to the words. But we've always done big casting call. You know, we've always done casting calls, and had people come in and audition, and we would take their names. If they were really good but they weren't right for this movie, we'd be like, all right, let's just keep their name here, and then, you know, okay, we're doing Murder Collection. This person will be great. Or this person knows how to speak Russian. Let's put him in, you know, the segment where they're talking Russian.
Yeah.
So we would always, you know, take really good notes on people, because there's a lot of great actors out there, and sometimes they might not be right for what you're doing right now, but they might be right for something that you're going to do in the future.
I know also when we go up to with Camille Keaton again, she just had a box set of her films from Italy was released through Winger Syndrome. I think it was last year.
Yeah.
And I was only familiar with her from your film and from, of course, I Spit on Your Grave.
You know, this was going to be TOETAG's major actor in one of our films, so they needed to fit in what TOETAG is. And Camille Keaton is that queen of exploitations. You know, I Spit on Your Grave is such an iconic film. It's a disturbing film, and you know, for somebody to come to step into the TOETAG world, she was the right woman at the right time. And I mean, I love her to death. I mean, I was a fan. I Spit on Your Grave as a kid. It disturbed the shit out of me.
Yeah, me too.
And then just seeing her naked as a kid was like my adolescence, and oh my, I couldn't believe what I was watching on the screen, and now she's in my movie playing this mother, so wholesome.
April for the most wonderful children.
I don't know if you know this, but in Norway they open up the kind of ban system of films back in around 2007, 2008. So most of 95% of the films that were banned back in the days weren't banned anymore. I believe still that Faces of Death and Traces of Death are still banned in Norway without knowing it for sure, but I do think so. But one of the films you worked on, this is just a side note, but one of your films is still banned, and it's Murder Set Pieces. You had special effects on it.
Yeah, and I acted in it too.
Yeah, and it's pulled back. It was actually released, but then it was pulled back 2 months later. So that's a fun fact from Norway, from me to you.
So were you able to get it for a moment on DVD in Norway?
I have the Norwegian DVD.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I'm moving right now, so where else I could have showed you it, but I can show you it later. It's cool because it only got probably 1,000 people or something managed to buy it before it was pulled back.
Yeah.
So it's
a shame about that movie. We did a lot of great special effects in there. It just it's kind of become one of those lost films.
Yeah, I haven't heard about it after, but I thought it was mostly because it was banned in Norway. But maybe
no, it's even here there's Lionsgate did a release, and they cut all the special effects out of it and made this really crappy version of the movie. And then the director only released a couple thousand of them or something. So what's out is what's out, So
okay.
I get asked about it. I get asked about it a lot. We did. Jeremy and I did some really great stuff in that.
Yeah, and I think it's a fun movie. Fun. It's probably the right word, not the right word, but it's good.
It's exploitation at its finest.
Yeah, it is, and it's a movie that really should be out there for people. But maybe Unearthed Films is a good place to go with that too.
Yeah.
When you do the post-production, I just went through IMDb to see you use different people, and I'm always curious about this, because me as a film director, I have always been asked myself why I changed professions over the years, like why I changed cinematographers, editor. But for my case, it's that I made low-budget films, and it's hard because 2 of my cinematographers have gone to the top now in Norway, so I can't use them anymore if I don't get the money,
Yep.
But I'm curious because every director or producer has different reasons for this. And I see that you have changed cinematographer 3 times.
Pretty much every movie has a different cinematographer.
Oh, it's every movie. I thought that. Okay.
The August Underground movies are weird because it's all, sometimes it's all of us holding the camera.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. Mm.
But how it worked for us was the first August Underground, it was Alan Peters who was the cameraman. In August Underground's Mortem, it was all of us. So that's me, Killjoy, Christy, Michael, held the camera in that. In the third one, it's me and Christy. The Redson Tower was a guy named Shane Sauer, who I met working on Murder Set Pieces. He was a grip working on Murder Set Pieces, and we hit it off. He would come and hang out with Jeremy and I in the shop. And he would, we were like, so what's your deal, dude? Like, what do you want to do? He's like, well, I want to be a cinematographer. And I'm like, you know what? Like, when I get home, I'm going to write something and we're going to work together. And he became the cinematographer for the Redson Tower. And he brought in a guy named Jason Prowl, he pretty much was like our grip and electric and gaffer all in the same one, all in the same breath. He pretty much did everything. He helped Shane light the shots. He helped build the camera rigs. I mean, he was just amazing. And I ended up using him he was the cinematographer for The Final Interview, my last movie.
Oh, nice.
Then, Maskhead was, Shelby and a guy named Dave D'Alessandro. Murder Collection was whoever was holding the camera was shooting that one. And Cell Turska was a guy named Gabe Spangler. So again, every movie has to have a certain look. And sometimes you need to find cinematographers and look at their reel and be like, wow, that's really kind of cool what they're doing here, and you're picking them for that.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I do when it comes to my cinematographer is I have them like come up a week or two early and live with me. And like, we're going to build a friendship. We're going to build a bond. Like, you're smelling my fucking farts. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like we're going to eat together. We're going to drink together. We're going to know each other, because the last thing I want is when we're on set and if we have to have some words, I don't want either of us to be a crybaby about it and walk off. You know what I mean? I want us to be able to hug it out and do what's right for the fucking movie.
Yeah.
And that's why it's really important for me to know that, because you're the director and the cameraman, that they have to be a team. Like, he has to shoot what my brain thinks.
Yeah.
And if you can't communicate with him, then you're not doing your job. So that's why it's always really important for me to work really, really tight with my cameraman.
I used to say to Jon Erling, one of my camera people I work with, that you're my right hand, and he always said to me, no, I'm your twin head. So that's how you need to think the same. And
editing's the same way. When it comes to editing and post-production, like, I am there sitting with the editor. I might not be pushing the buttons because I don't know the first thing about that shit, but I obviously know how to edit. I know what shots go. I know what takes are better. I know visually if the shot looks good. If there, my brain is scanning for boom mics and shadows and camera reflections and all these other things that people don't even think about. I'm thinking about, and I'm working with the editor. And you need to have that team. Again, you're sitting in a room together for 15 hours a day, working. And the last thing you want is when you have to have words, because shit happens, and sometimes you get heated, or no, this takes better, no, this is better, and you have your own opinions on things. You need to be able to hug it out and think about the main goal, which is making the best fucking movie and telling the best story.
Over to the physical release, I think that's actually the most exciting thing for the people. And I don't know how much you can tell, Fred. So you just gotta you answer what you can answer.
Okay.
Will we be getting some new extras on the August Underground releases?
Oh yeah, but a nice amount of people had the August Underground films, and every time we've done a release, we always try to put different features on there. So like when you had a double dip and get something, you're actually getting something new. And that's the same way that we felt about these releases with Unearthed. And the really beautiful thing about the Unearthed releases is that it's pulling a lot of stuff from the original TOETAG releases. So you're getting stuff that was on the snuff edition. I mean, because there's only 1,000 of them made. And if you missed out on those 1,000, good luck. You're paying $500 for it, But as for the Unearthed release, we wanted to make sure that, people might be going in for a third time buying these. I wanted to make sure that they had all the features and a bunch of new stuff. Because, again, we're sitting on unfortunately, the first August Underground movie, a lot of that material was lost because we really didn't know what we were doing. It was like, again, we were making a movie on the weekend. But August Underground's Mortem and August Underground's Penance, we kind of learned from that and to shoot behind the scenes stuff and to, try to build some kind of special features, because by that time, because you got to remember, like, DVD in 2000, you're lucky if you had like the special features where you reading text, this is a casting text or whatever kind of little text. There wasn't the special features that we've started to that would come into play, where you were getting these great documentaries and you were getting commentary tracks and you were getting all this stuff. So by the time August Underground's Mortem and August Underground's Penance came out, we were putting more stuff and more content onto these discs. And, I just didn't want to stop there with these Unearthed releases, and I really wanted to try new stuff. And eventually, when this August Underground box set comes out, it'll have everything, everything. But it's taken a lot of time because, again, Jeremy's in California, Shelby and I are in Pittsburgh. A lot of this stuff is in storage. These movies are 20 years old. I've moved way back. It's like going back in time, revisiting a lot of this stuff because I haven't watched it in so long, and now it's finding a whole new group of young people that are just enjoying the sickness, and I fucking love it.
Well, I'm headed for Death Valley once again. Tell me, is it true? Gonna drop some tabs and hang out with my friends.
Okay.
Did you film them on DV tape, or what? Can I ask how technique?
Yeah, so the first August Underground was shot on a Canon XL1, which was like the best video camera at that moment in time. That wasn't like you couldn't go to Best Buy or an electronics store and pick one of those up. You actually had to go to a camera place. That was what a lot of like sports was shot on at the time, I believe.
That's that circle camera right there.
Yeah, it's white and has the top on it.
Yeah, I remember it.
August Underground's Mortem was shot on a Hi8, and then August Underground's Penance was shot on like the first HD, camera until like 2009.
Yeah,
this is 2007.
7.
Yeah, and Redson Tower was shot on the 24p. And that's one thing that I've always done is, one of the reasons why I also hire different cameramen is because they have their own gear.
Yeah.
I never wanted to buy cameras because the technology moves so fast that like 1 minute your 24p is the camera, and then the next thing you know, it's out of date.
Yeah.
Nobody wants that look anymore. Everybody wants it to be all clear. We shot on the 24p to make it look like film, and then nowadays it just looked grainy, and it was like, maybe if we should just go back to the original, the original look of it.
And it's funny nowadays they try to go to the old school way again. So it's they want more grain in films.
Yeah,
and stuff,
that's a great thing about style. You know what I mean? Is trying different things. These kids now have, they've seen shitty video, they've seen crystal clear video, they've seen film, they've seen all of it.
Yeah.
Where us, we were going through like the early stages of, okay, this is what video looks like. Ugh.
Yeah.
Movie shot on video look like shit. Because all we knew was movie shot on film.
Yeah.
It was like looking, it was looking at, trying to read a different language or something. It was like, what is this?
But it's always give me nostalgia when I watch those things. It's a beauty, because it tells me the past. When it comes to us collectors, is there anything you can tell that Unearthed Film hasn't exposed yet on their site?
I'm not really sure. I know like when we give them the deliverables of all the special features, they put a a sheet out and it has everything written on there so everybody knows what they're getting.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's really no surprises. I think the surprises are going to come when this box set's released. And
that was my question.
Yeah.
I just heard rumors on it. I didn't know that.
It's going to happen. It was going to happen with TOETAG. But again, life happens and other movies happen. And I'm just like, I want to make a new movie. I don't want to be, going back in time and like doing all this stuff for see, it's hard when you're doing that shit yourself. Like these other companies that release films, they would come to your house and interview me and then go away. And then 3 months later, there's a Blu-ray.
Yeah.
For me, it's like, okay, I got to dig through all this stuff. I got to get all this stuff. I got to go to an editor. We do a lot of the stuff.
Yeah.
Like I had to sit with the editor and do special features for these releases and get back into it. I had to edit new trailers. I haven't watched the August Underground films in years. And the next thing you know, I'm like watching them and cutting new trailers for them because who else was going to do it? You know what I mean? It's Unearthed, even though Unearthed has a really great following. They're still an independent distribution company. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like they're still a smaller guy.
No, but Unearthed Films, I only heard good stuff about. I have some good releases from them. One of them I haven't seen yet, but it's
it's a classic.
Yeah, I have never seen it.
Yeah, no, it's great.
And they released this as well, so I was happy about that. This is a crazy one.
I have it, but I haven't had a chance to watch it yet.
Yeah, you should. It's really fun. I will just show the one I have here for commercial reasons for them.
Yeah,
so
that's a classic as well.
And this one, of course, everybody's seen Prometheus.
Oh yes.
So it's a fun label you have gotten into now. So that's really good.
Yeah, it's the perfect place for August Underground to live right now. And to have a home where Serbian film lives and Aftermath lives and Guinea Pig movies live and Untold Story, and it's the perfect home for it. And again, Unearthed Films started the same year as TOETAG did, so I've known Stephen Byro for over 20 years.
Yeah, right.
And I remember when he first got started, and we were talking about he's got this new thing and I got this new thing, and it's awesome to see what he's built in these 20 years. So it's great.
Yeah. They seem really good, the company. Are you, Fred, working on anything right now? I'm thinking of future projects, like features you are writing or you're thinking of doing.
Oh, absolutely. So before I made the final interview, I was really trying to make a project called Pittsburgh Body Removal. And I got really close, but the money people pulled out at the last minute, and I was so revved up getting so close that there was no way that I could take my foot completely off the gas. I just had to turn down a different road and make the final interview, which I'm so glad that I did. As a learning experience, it was my first SAG movie. It was the first time I had to have an actor in a trailer. You know what I mean? It was a big time color correction out in Los Angeles. I did all kinds of stuff. I grew so much because of that. And it really gave me a taste of the kind of where I want to be as a filmmaker, budget wise. I can't be that low budget filmmaker anymore. It's in the past. It's really hard. I couldn't even imagine trying to make something for $1,500 like I made August Underground for.
Yeah.
So Pittsburgh Body Removal is one project. I have a Christmas story, a Christmas idea, because I love Christmas movies. And I have a really great Santa killer kind of project that I have. But right now I am deep into my Frankenstein script.
Okay,
and,
that's exciting.
Yeah, so I mean, this is really the next project that I want to do is my Frankenstein movie. I kind of set a goal. I want to make this before I'm 50. 50's right around the corner.
So yeah.
So I'm working. Right now I'm off of work. There's the strike, the SAG strike, and the writers' strike. So there's no real movies going on right now in Pittsburgh. So it's given me the time to really get in and work on this script, who I am working on with Rebecca Swan, who wrote the final interview. So we have a really great writing relationship. I come up with the characters, I come up with the idea, and then she comes in and writes a really amazing script, and we just keep bouncing it back and forth until it's Fred Vogel approved.
Yeah. Will it be dark?
Of course. I don't. It's funny. I love comedies, but I don't know if I know how to make that. I know how to make dark tales. I like that. I like that genre. I like making people squirm in their head a little bit.
Yeah. I actually completely understand.
To me, that's just a movie. That's the art that I like to create. My art has always kind of been dark. So.
And that's the kind of movies we don't get that much anymore also. So I really hope that focus on a little bit more darkness in films. Too much lightness nowadays.
It is. Well, I mean, everything is just so hypocolor, you know what I mean? Like it's just whoa. And you know, like, you know, Frankenstein is a dark story. And it's a sad story. And it's a story about love, and it's a story about loss. It's a story about family. And that's what my script's all about. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm just taking everything that I love about the movies and the book and, you know, the plays, everything that I could possibly take from the world of Frankenstein and, you know, put it in the blender in my brain and, you know, create something fresh, that as fresh as I can make it.
And if I remember right, Fred, that's your favorite horror movie, or?
It is. Yeah, Frankenstein.
Yeah, I remember that from Matthew. Yeah. I know you already talked about it, but I worked for 16 years in the prop or the art department, though. So I was just wondering, how do you like it? Is it something you want to keep doing, or?
You know, I really like it. I love taking that Hollywood money. Believe me, you know, like, and I love being part of the union. You know, I get medical, and you know, for us Americans, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
You know, so getting medical benefits and getting a pension and thinking about my future. When I was hurt on the last project that I was working with, my union took care of me financially with some things, which was amazing. You know, all my union brothers and sisters came and supported supported me in my time of need, which was amazing. But I love it. It's a different kind. It's a different way of being creative. Once you're done moving the heavy furniture around, and you can kind of make that set come to life, that's really where I shine.
Yeah.
I love bringing a set to life, and sometimes it's just the itty bitty little things that can make. And you know what? You'll never see it in the movie, or the television show, or whatever. You never see it, but I know it's there. And I know that it helped the actors be like, wow, I'm in a real environment right here.
Yeah.
And even if it's on a soundstage, you know, to make things look like you're not on a soundstage is really important, because that gives the actor the opportunity to be free and be in the moment and really be there.
Yeah. I have a really big love for working on Second World War movies. That's my favorite. Creating the past, especially the 40s. That's like my love.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I've never worked in anything that far back period wise. I did a movie called recently. I did the Tom Hanks movie, A Man Called Otto.
That's the Swedish remake. I saw the Tom Hanks film.
Yeah. That turned out really nice. It was very simple, but yet stylized and real feeling.
It looks really good.
Yeah. When I work on a project, even though when you work on big movies, it's a job.
Yeah.
You know, it's different than like people working on our films, you know, where it's like family. When you work on a big movie, you're on a crew with hundreds of people. You know, there's not just one set dresser, there's 14 of them. Sometimes there could be even 20 of them.
Yeah.
But I still like to know, I still read the scripts, even though you don't have to. If there's a book based on it, I want to read the book. If a movie's based on it, whatever, I want to know as much as I can, because that helps me. It makes my job easier knowing, what we're dealing with.
Yeah. And if you get questions also, I feel smarter, at least if I had done it. So, but I remember we spoke together probably 5 years ago, 4 years ago or something. And then we talk a little bit, because I know you're a collector as well, right?
I've been collecting movies my whole life. I've owned multiple versions of every format of certain movies.
Yeah.
For instance, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is one of my favorite movies. I have the Second Sight European version, and I have the US version 4K. Like, I have the DVD, the Blu-ray. I have all of them.
Yeah.
Because I have to. I even if the color's a little different, I need to see, like, okay, this is what they did here. I like this color better, or there's an audio track that I don't have that I need to have.
Yeah.
Again, that's just my love for film. Records, I have a very large record collection, and I don't look at records as collecting. I look at records as that's part of my life. Music is a huge part that makes me run. You know, it's just as important as breathing air and eating food. Is listening to music. You know, it can brighten up your day. It can make you fucking angry. It can, you know, help you let off some steam. I mean, it's just an amazing medium. You know what I mean? It really is just it's amazing, and that's why I love it so much. But I have to like watch how much I keep spending, because you can't take it with you, and it gets to the point when you have 3,000 records. You know, how am I going to listen to all these? If you have 5,000 movies, how am I going to watch all these? And if you have 900 books, how are you going to read all these?
Yeah.
And as a collector, sometimes we just buy just to have it, because that we need to fill in the void of the collection. We need that shot of dopamine that makes us feel all good.
The sickness.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even
Yeah.
from like my wrestling stuff in the back, like I collect all different kinds of shit.
Yeah.
And one of the things that in the past 2 years, I've really started to focus on certain things in the collection, big ticket items instead of smaller little things. My Frankenstein collection, I just acquired a Colin Clive autograph, which is so hard to come by. And, I mean, the guy's been dead since 1937. Like his autograph, that's a hard one to get, Dr. Frankenstein. But now I have one in my collection, and I'm so happy to have that. There's certain things that you just have to think what's priority. You know what I mean? Like, what do I really want to spend my money on? Again, you can't take it with you. And I'd rather spend money on vacations or, more life experiences. But once a collector, always a collector.
By heart. Yeah. Can you name, you have already said Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Frankenstein, of course. So can you name some other of your favorite films or music, art, whatever, like something you really want to say is part of your kind of, how you say it, like something that triggered you into making art?
My inspirations.
Yeah.
So Frankenstein is my biggest inspiration. If it wasn't for Boris Karloff and the Jack Pierce makeup, I wouldn't be talking to you right now. I mean, that really set me on my path of studying special effects makeup and learning about film. And growing up in the 80s and having the access to video stores and watching so much, I was influenced by lots of different movies. I love movies like Over the Edge, which is from 1979. It's like Matt Dillon's first movie. It's like teen angst and kids locking their teachers and parents up in a school and blowing up cars. It's a really great adolescent film. I love movies. I love movies like that. I love, maybe it's the time that I saw it, but like Sean Penn and Bad Boys. I loved that movie.
I saw it for the first time just some months ago.
What did you think?
I loved it. It was amazing. I almost hit myself.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's so good. The acting is so good. And those are kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you sit back and you look at it, and it's like, oh my God, Sean Penn is probably like 20 years old. You know what I mean? They're kids.
I almost got angry on myself that I hadn't seen it before, but my friend of mine recommended it. But then I thought, now I get to experience it for the first time now. So
I've been doing that a lot myself. Is I've been watching a lot of movies I've never seen before that I've kind of like, oh, I'll catch that. You know what I mean? Like I've never seen it, and then all of a sudden years go by, and it's like I never saw that movie. So one of the things that I did this year is I've literally have written down every movie that I've watched this year.
Okay.
So I'm gonna when this year's over, I'm gonna have a list, and I'm gonna be like, all right, well, next year I'm not gonna try to watch. I'm gonna try to watch all new movies. Of course, I have to watch certain movies during Halloween time or Christmas time, things like that. But I watched Dawn of the Dead so much. I watched the Texas Chainsaw Massacre so much. I watch comedies like Airplane and Young Frankenstein and Blazing Saddles. I love Mel Brooks films. Um, Professional wrestling, watching old school wrestling is something that's really, if it wasn't for wrestling, I wouldn't have the showmanship that I have as a person, and a carnival barker, and a person who loves to market and try these different things to turn people on about my product.
Mm.
I learned that from wrestling, and I learned that from Kiss, and the Misfits. Limited covers, limited different color vinyl, all that stuff. There's been people who came before me, and I respect them, and I tell people about them. It's not just me who said, "Hey, let's come up with a signed cover or a different color, album cover or something like that." So, there's a lot of great influences out there, and I wear them proudly on my battle vest. You know what I mean? Like I love my stuff. I'm not afraid to turn people on to the stuff that influenced me, because maybe it'll influence you.
Is there a movie experience, because go back to films, is there a movie experience you remember, the first thing you remember from when you were young, the first movie experience you had when you was young that has always been stuck to your mind?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so The Exorcist. I saw The Exorcist at a very young age. Back in the day here in America, they would do like the Tuesday night movie or the Sunday night movie, and they would show, because there was no video stores yet. This is pre-video, so I'm going to say this is probably 1979, 1980, maybe. All I know, I was big enough to be able to like stand behind my mother, who was lying on the couch, and kind of like look over her body and watch the TV.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget it, when Linda Blair is bouncing on the bed and screaming. And I just remember being like squeezing my mom's body and burying my head into her hip, and like looking up and being so scared of what I was seeing. And, her being like, "Oh, honey, it's just a movie. And, being able to understand that it's just a movie at such a young age was just something that I was born with. And I understood, okay, well, that's just not real. Like I had real common sense at a very early age to realize, like, okay, this isn't real. This is fake.
Yeah.
That's not a real monster. Monsters don't exist. At least that kind of monster doesn't exist. Things like that. So The Exorcist was definitely one of those films that stood out to me that I'll always forget. I'll always remember watching it, with my mom when I was 3 or 4 years old.
Nice. Exorcist gets, actually, you probably know this already, but for the audience, it gets a 4K release now in October. That's a movie I will absolutely buy.
Yeah.
You can see that movie 100 times and it never gets old or boring. It's just a perfect.
No, because it's such great filmmaking. It's and again, the acting was there. Ellen Bernstein is so great in it. Of course, Linda Blair is great in it as a child, but like William Friedkin really had to work with her, and he took the time to work with her, and having artists like Dick Smith there, and you had all these really talented people making this movie happen, putting this set into a freezer so you could see their breath.
Yeah.
Where nowadays is, we'll fix that in post. Don't worry about that. You know what I mean? That's the problem with movies.
Yeah.
That, we can put a green screen behind us and you can have all different kinds of shit. And it's cheaper than, building a set inside a freezer. But you know what? When you want that actor's lips to quiver and you want to see their nose turn red from being cold, you want to feel that cold and you want to really see that breath, you have to do things practical. And I love practical. And I love when, filmmakers like Christopher Nolan and Tarantino, who love practical too, because they know they'd rather look at a rubber monster than look at a computer generated creature, because at least with a rubber monster, you could fucking touch it.
Yeah.
And even though we have the separation from eyes to the screen, us as filmmakers, we want you to be able to grab it. and really feel like it's in there in that environment. And I feel like so many movies, lose that because it's easier to generate something on the computer than actually like having some craftsmanship and somebody building a set, or a production designer doing something that will, add to the film.
People are always saying in interviews and stuff that I agree. Man, I agree 110% in everything you say. I do. It's something I miss, even from my profession as a prop master. I really miss 10 years ago, where we actually had to build all the knives, all the weapons and stuff, the backgrounds, everything. Nowadays it's like 50-50 on each project. So yeah, I totally agree. How would you say, because you already went into it now, but movies today, one of the biggest issues is that, but do you have any positive or negative thing to say about, in general, about movies today, except of course they are going into CGI territory often and green screen and everything?
As I get older, I get less angry at modern movies.
Yeah.
There's no point in getting angry anymore. I think when I was younger, and if it was something that I didn't like, I would just be like, get this crap out of here. This is just crap. I don't need to see this Hollywood mainstream crap. But when you're a filmmaker and you realize that there's a whole team of people working really hard to make something, once you've done it, like you and I both have, making movies, you realize that there was a lot of hard work that went into that. Yeah. And maybe they're not catering to me personally. Nowadays I go to the movies as much as I possibly can. It's weird here in where I live in Pittsburgh. My movie theater gets Bollywood films. I guess we have a large Indian fan base or something that's close by to my theater, where they show these Bollywood movies. And like one day Shelby's like, "Hey, I'm going to the movies to see this Bollywood film." And I'm like, "What?" She's like, and she came back and she's like, "Oh my God, Fred, I had the most fun watching this movie." And then the next time one came around, I went and saw it, and like we had, they're so over the top and dancing and music and fun, and they're so creative. Granted, is that movie going to be on my fucking shelf? Probably not. But for 2 hours, I enjoyed it with my popcorn and my wife, and that's kind of what I love. I love the experience of being back in the movie theater, watching stuff on the big screen, and enjoying it. The seats are better these days. The sound is better. The screen is bigger, and if you can get a chance to see, especially a horror film, it might not even be good, but at least if you could still go to the theater and see something, go for it. It's just now, you know what I mean? Like, it's not the 80s anymore. It's not the 90s anymore. It's not even the early 2000s anymore. We are into the 2020s, and things are changing. And the last thing I want to be is an old fogey when it comes to art or music or literature or anything. I want to try to put my foot into everything and educate myself on these different types of films, these different new techniques that they're doing. I want to learn, you know what I mean? I just don't want to be stagnant because I like the way The Exorcist was done,
Yeah. Oh, I completely agree. It's but it's hard often. I think you're good if you manage to do that. I struggle. It's I don't get mad, but I get frustrated often, and that's my thing when I'm at the cinema.
Yeah.
But I think we went into Bollywood, and I think actually it's a little bit sad that the studios, or not studios, but the beauty companies don't focus on that. Mondo Macabro has released a box that I have from Bollywood. I'm not a big Bollywood fan, but I've seen some films that I really like. But to be honest, I've probably only seen 10 Bollywood films in my life. So it would have been fun to dig a little bit into that. Especially
yeah, I mean, I've only seen 3. But, again, it's just a fun little experience. It's just a different experience.
Yeah.
And that's like the beautiful thing about the art of film is like, you don't know what you're going to get. You pop your ass down in the seat, you open up your eyes nice and big, and you're excited to see what you're going to get. And, sometimes it's 2 hours of shit, and sometimes it's, 2 hours of the greatest thing you've ever seen. And sometimes it's 50-50 where you're like, oh God, the first 2 acts were amazing, but the third act sucks. And that's just laziness that's going on these days. How many times have you watched a movie where like, wow, everything was really good until the end, and then they don't know how to finish it, or they ran out of money, or they don't put 100% into the third act, where they just, once we got them hooked, we can just put in whatever we want and let people watch that shit.
Yeah.
And I think that's a way things are today. It's just like it's so different. Especially a lot of the studios, they don't care. As long as they're making money, that's all they care about. They don't care about the art of like making a movie. It's all about who are the prettiest people we can put in here. What's the newest music we can put in here? Look at all the movie trailers that come out. Every movie trailer now has a vintage classic rock song slowed down, with maybe isolated vocals. And it's the same thing. It's Elton John. It's, Eric Clapton. It's Aerosmith. I mean, you name it. Every movie trailer is exactly the same. It's so formulaic. There's no art to it anymore because it's the same companies making the same shit.
Yeah.
Where you and me, we try to be creative with, our trailers. We try to be creative with our storytelling because we have to. We don't have that money to burn. You know what I mean? So we have to think outside the box and be creative.
It's a new low, man.
Open your eyes!
And the movie business has changed many times. The movie business has worn many masks. You think about old Hollywood with, Louis B. Mayer and, the Lemleys at Universal. And then you have like the changing of the guard when like Spielberg and De Palma and Lucas and, and Scorsese and all these new guys came in at like the late 60s into the 70s and made film dangerous. Think about those great movies from the 70s, from Death Wish to the comedies like, Airplane, The Jerk, and,
Jaws. I would even include
Jaws. Of course, Jaws, a game changer for summer films.
An amazing movie.
Yeah, it was just a great time because that's because the studios were like, hey, this guy really has a story to tell.
Yeah.
I'm going to give Martin Scorsese money. I'm going to give Stanley Kubrick money because I know this guy's going to give us something great. Brian De Palma is going to give me something very creative. And I know George Lucas is going to give us something spectacular. And, nowadays it's just like, oh, you know how to, you've directed a commercial while you're in college? Perfect. Here's $20 million. Go direct a superhero movie.
And when you're into that, think about...
And the reason why they do that is because it's easy to stranglehold these young artists.
Yeah.
And when somebody's got a gun to your head and says, no, we're going to put fucking this person in your movie. When I was trying to get the Pittsburgh body removal made, the money people were like, hey, how do you feel about an influencer playing the younger version of this character? And I was like, no fucking way.
Yeah.
Why do I want to go? This guy has 30 million followers. I'm like, this guy fucking farts, in a snare drum. You know what I mean? Like that's why people, watch him. Like this guy has no. How is he going to act if I get a William Forsythe or anybody? You know what I mean? Just a great actor.
Yeah.
And I'm just in the studio wants me to put that in there because we're getting their following and maybe his people will come to the theater. Scorsese didn't hire fucking Robert De Niro because of how many people follow him. He hired him because he was the right fucking guy for the job. He was a great actor, and that's what you want. There's so many great actors out there, and right now they're all struggling with the strike because there's so many actors out there that work for SAG minimum, who don't make a lot of money, who don't get their, they're not the Brad Pitts or the George Clooney's, and but there's still so much talent out there. Like I'd rather use somebody who really believes in their craft than some kid that is famous for making YouTube videos.
Yeah, big on TikTok.
Yeah, right.
It's a crazy world. I don't understand it either, but yeah, it's what sells. That's the thing.
And maybe again, I say I don't want to sound like an old fogey, but like I don't, I'm not on TikTok. I don't get a lot of that stuff.
TOETAG is not on TikTok. No, but that's a good thing.
But you know what? A lot of my fans are, and a lot of my fans make August Underground TikToks, and or they'll put something up with Fred Vogel. It'll come into my Instagram, and I'll be like, okay, and I'll share it, and so I'm learning, slowly but surely.
Do you have anything, Fred, that you regret from your career? Anything at all? Like something you have made, something you wish you could have done, like really different? I'm not talking about small stuff, as we always do, but anything that you...
You know what? No, I don't, man. I've never been a regretful person and thinking about, what coulda, shoulda, woulda.
Yeah.
Life, shit happens in life, man.
Yeah.
We all have a giant shit sandwich that we have to take a bite of every once in a while and swallow it, and it doesn't taste good. But I don't look at it as a bad thing. I just look at it, that's just part of what life is all about. Nobody has anything perfect. I was really lucky. The final interview was probably the smoothest, funnest filmmaking experience I ever had. Everybody that was there wanted to be there. The actors' performances were amazing. We would shoot 18 pages in a day, and then would go to my house and like, watch movies. And we did so well that we finished a day early and were able to have a wrap party and have fun. And that was amazing. But like, sometimes shit comes up. When I was making the right before I was getting ready to make the Redson Tower, my cousin was murdered, and it made me question if I even wanted to make horror movies anymore. And thank God I didn't. And I kept doing what I'm doing because this is what I was put here to do. I was put here to make movies for everybody. But again, that's just life, and sometimes you just got to take that punch and roll with it and keep moving on.
Yeah,
no regrets.
The last thing I just want to ask you for to end the interview is that you have 5 other features that could be possible for releasing on physical.
Yeah.
Do you see any openings in the future that we could possibly get the other films?
I think so. I think right now, the August Underground movies were the first step to starting to let go of my children to somebody else. If everything works out with Unearthed, which everything seems to be doing great right now, I don't see why that's not going to happen. Okay. I want everybody to see the movies. I'm very proud of my films, my filmography.
What do you think?
Well, thank you very much. I'm Fred Vogel, and if you are looking to check out some of my movies, unfortunately, a lot of them are out of print, so good luck. Try not to spend too much money on eBay for them, but the August Underground films will be coming out this year, starting in August with the first one, October, and then December for the August Underground's Mortem and August Underground's Penance. And my latest movie, The Final Interview, you can get at www.thefinalinterviewmovie.com, and you can digitally download it for $10, or you can buy the really awesome 3-disc collector's edition that comes with the Blu-ray, the DVD, and the soundtrack, and all kinds of extra goodies. Because I love physical media, and I always want to give the fans like the best and the coolest physical media packages that I possibly can. So check those out. Support independent filmmakers and underground filmmakers and Reinhardt. And thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
Thank you so much for this, Fred, and I hope I see you again here.
I hope so too.
Man, that's a waste of a fucking full beer, dude. You're picking this shit up.